People are always asking me what I think is the best or the most well-rounded DJ setup for a beginner to get. So there are a couple of factors to consider when making your first DJ kit purchase. Searching for DJ gear can be really intimidating if you don't know what you're looking for and what you need to get out of your gear. There are a number of factors that come into play when picking out what is right for you. Probably most important and obvious of these is budget. Buying a DJ kit can range all the way down from $5 buying an app on your iPhone to buying a whole range of CDJs. It really just depends on what your specific budget is and what you can afford to buy. In general, the more expensive a piece of gear is, the higher quality it's going to be, but that isn't necessarily always the case. And just because you have the best gear in the industry does not make you the best DJ. I need to make that point very, very clear. The gear does not make a DJ. Practice and hard work is what makes a DJ. You also need to take into consideration what style of music you play. For example, if you're most interested in becoming a hip-hop DJ, you're probably going to exclusively want to learn how to play on turntables, real turntables with tone arms and platters and needles. Whereas if you're a dubstep producer that also wants to play out his own tunes and launch as many live samples as possible, you may want to consider Ableton and a controller for your DJ surface. Or if you're a house DJ like me and you like to be bringing in lots of different tracks, you may want to learn on CDJs. But really the first decision you have to make when deciding if you want to become a DJ is whether you want to be using a controller or decks of some sort. The difference between a controller and decks and a mixer is that the controller will be controlling a piece of software on your computer, laptop, whatever you have, that will be mixing internally on the software. Essentially all the buttons and knobs and faders on the controller aren't doing anything audio-wise. All they're doing is sending signals to your computer to change different digital knobs and faders in the software. Whereas with actual decks and a mixer, you're controlling an audio signal that comes out from the decks into the mixer and is actually manipulated using the physical faders and knobs. However, you don't need to worry about the details of how your music is getting to your audience. You just need to be worried about what suits your preferences best. The best part about getting a controller is that they're often way cheaper than buying individual decks and a mixer. I should remind you though that you do need a laptop for it, so that might actually not be the cheapest if you don't already have a computer that you can take with you to your show. If you're like me and you have a desktop at home that you can't take with you to every show, it's probably best to go with decks. There's a huge price range in the controller market, ranging all the way down from $50 for very basic 2-channel controllers for software like Virtual DJ, all the way up to controllers like the Pioneer DDJ SX. So if you're a brand new DJ and don't make your own tunes and you want to get your feet wet in mixing, I would recommend sticking in the lower budget range, getting Virtual DJ, and buying a controller like the Vestex VCI 300. This will allow you to learn all the basics and step up into something bigger later. My next step up would be the Traktor Control S4. The S4 opens up a whole new suite of features and allows you to use Traktor mixing software. The whole Traktor range of products is also expandable. You can add X1s and F1s to launch individual clips and play even more decks at once. Then finally, for the high-end DJs that don't produce their own tunes, I would recommend the Pioneer DDJ SX. It's a 5-channel controller and it uses Serato DJ and it is very, very powerful. It is also a very, very solid piece of hardware and software, and it can also serve as a mixer for any external decks you want to connect. So if you decide to step up even bigger, you can also connect any other external decks, be them CDJs or actual phono inputs like on turntables. This way you can wean yourself off of being dependent on a controller and learn to use decks on your own time while still having the safety net of having a controller that you know the ins and outs of very well. If you're a producer that wants to DJ and still stay within the realm of controllers, there are a couple recommendations I would have for you at different price points. Hands down, the most popular and effective budget piece of gear for using Ableton in a live set is the Akai APC-40. It allows you to launch all sorts of clips through MIDI and control all sorts of parameters that you can customize in the hardware configuration. You might want to consider getting some more high-end controllers and more gear to take your live set to a whole new level. This can include adding a MIDI keyboard to your setup so that you can play your synths live in your sets. You can also integrate Ableton's brand new push hardware, which allows you to take control over basically every parameter in the software and play it like a real live instrument. Really, if you're an Ableton producer and you want to bring your sets to the next level, the only thing that's going to limit you is the number of USB ports you have and your creativity. Now, to finish off our talk about controllers, we have to talk about digital vinyl systems. DVS, or digital vinyl system, is essentially turning your decks or your turntables into a controller themselves. Without getting into too much detail, DVS allows you to unlock the full potential of software while retaining the physical manipulative abilities of hardware like vinyl and turntables. For this type of setup, I would recommend a set of Technics 1200 MK2s. To unlock the power of Serato, you're also going to need to buy an SL or Scratch Live box. You're only going to need an SL box if you're not going to be using a Scratch Live certified mixer. Basically, if you want to use Scratch Live with a mixer other than one of the certified mixers that I've linked down in the description, you're going to be needing to buy an external box. This is basically how Serato makes money off of making the software free. Moving on from the controller segment of this video, let's talk a little bit about DJ decks. DJ decks are different than controllers because you don't need a laptop, which can liberate a lot of people. For example, if you're a producer who's a little higher up in the chain and you play around at different clubs, you might not want to be hauling all of your gear, all your controller gear, your laptop to every single set that you do. Maybe you just want to bring a book of CDs or a flash drive with all your music on it. Or maybe you're an old school guy that carries around crates of vinyl but doesn't want to deal with hauling around Technics 1200s and mixers to every set he goes to. This is the beauty and simplicity behind learning how to play on decks. I'm using the term decks broadly because that can mean both turntables in the classical sense or CDJs like the ones that you see behind me. One of the reasons I chose to go the route of decks from the get-go is the reliability issue. I've always found that for some reason I just don't trust computers 100% with a mix when they are the central core unit to making sure that everything is going smoothly. I've been to way too many shows where a DJ set has been cut short or interrupted by computer problems or hardware issues. Of course, a lot of this can be attributed to user error on part of the DJs, and for the most part the software is pretty stable, but just for my own peace of mind I decided to go the route of decks from the very first set I purchased. You can get a set of CD players and a mixer for under $200 and learn the fundamentals across every other set of decks and mixers out there. However, in general, buying decks and separate mixers are always going to be more expensive than their controller counterparts. This is to make up for the fact that the controllers have a dedicated laptop to do all their processing and the decks don't. They have to have their own internal on each deck. The reason why I like Pioneer products so much and why I always pimp them out in my videos is that they have a really scalable and professional range of gear. I have a buddy that I got interested in DJing a couple months back, and he wanted to have his own setup, but he couldn't quite afford the flagship 2000s or even anything in the mid-range. But the great thing about the Pioneer system is that even if you have the smallest, cheapest players, it's totally scalable. So the same USB flash drive that you use to play a show in a small little bar with CDJ 350s and a DJM 350 is going to play the same tunes and have the same cue points and the same everything form factor wise as if you were playing a big festival with 8 Platinum Nexus CDJ 2000s in front of you. It's really scalable and really easy to migrate your entire setup from something that's budget friendly and beginner up to something that's fully professional. For the budget end of buying decks, I would recommend a set of Pioneer CDJ 350s and a DJM 350. This will give you all the basic current gen features that you need to play a show and be able to scale up to a larger show in time. You can play either using CDs or flash drives. You can also record directly to USB if you like recording your sets. And the 2-channel mixer also has effects built into it, so you can learn how to use effects sparingly and correctly before stepping up into a bigger form factor mixer. Moving up from there, I would recommend a mid-level budget deck system of 2 Pioneer CDJ 850s. You can then partner these decks with a DJM 750. This will give you a whole host of new features to play with that'll really be a step up from your CDJ 350s into a bigger, more full-featured platform. And once you've mastered that setup, you can look into something that's a little bit bigger and even more professional. I personally am of the opinion that you don't need to buy the 2000 Nexuses just yet, I would maybe save your money and go with a set of CDJ 2000s and a DJM 900. If you want to go for the full professional look, I would definitely recommend the DJM 900 over any of the other mixers. It's probably the most popular club mixer in the world right now, and it pairs really well with the CDJ 2000s. And finally, if you're going to be playing strictly vinyl, there are a couple of options that I would recommend for you. To stay really budget-minded, Stanton makes some great budget turntables. If you'd like to use more effects in your vinyl sets, I would recommend going with one of the Pioneer line of mixers. The DJM 909 is a classic mixer. It's no longer made, but you can still pick them up used, and they have a ton of great effects on them. Moving up from there, a mid-range system that I would recommend would be the Technics 1200 MK2s, like I recommended earlier for the DVS system, in conjunction with a Pioneer DJM mixer with whichever effects you want. You can step up to the bigger ones like a DJM 900, but I don't think that's really necessary. For an all-vinyl set, you could definitely get away with a cheaper mixer, just based on the culture around all vinyl sets. Finally, if you really want to impress all of your DJ friends and do a really high-end all-vinyl DJ kit, I would recommend the Technics 1200 M5Gs paired with whatever fancy mixer you want to have in your DJ kit. I would recommend a Rain 68 if you're going to go high-end, all-out internal effects. If you buy the Rain mixer, you can also upgrade to a digital vinyl system later if you want to, at really no extra cost. So there we have it. It was a long video, but hopefully I helped a couple of you pick out what might be your first DJ system and help get your feet wet into the art of DJing. Remember, it's not the gear that makes the DJ, it's all the practice, all the research, and all of the tune searching that goes into it that really is going to make your mixes stand apart from everybody else. You can go out and buy whatever you want, I don't care. You can post as many videos as you want, and it's not going to make you better than someone who has practiced twice as long as you, who has done more research on music, and who knows their gear a lot better than you. I've seen people put together better iTunes playlist mixes than I've seen play on full 4-deck CDJ 2000 setups in clubs. So that just goes to show you that it really isn't about the gear, it's about the creativity behind the person controlling the equipment. Till next time, see you later.